The Hunt Begins Captain Marcus Vale had seen enough death to fill 1,000 lifetimes. His weathered hands gripped the controls of his ship, the Stellar Hawk. As he stared at the holographic bounty notice floating before him, the image showed a woman with piercing violet eyes and silver hair that seemed to shimmer like starlight. Her name was Zara Nightwind, and the Galactic Consortium had placed a bounty of 50,000 credits on her head. The Outer Rim territories buzzed with whispers about her. Some called her a terrorist, others a freedom fighter. What everyone agreed on was that she was dangerous. The Consortium's official records listed her crimes as treason, destruction of corporate property, and inciting rebellion across 7 star systems. But Marcus had learned long ago that official records rarely told the whole truth. He needed those credits desperately. His younger sister lay dying on Earth, her body ravaged by the Crimson Plague that had swept through the outer colonies. The medical treatments she needed cost more than Marcus could earn in 5 years of legitimate work. The bounty on Zara Nightwind represented hope, a chance to save the only family he had left. Marcus set course for the Kepler Nebula, where intelligence reports suggested she might be hiding. The journey would take 3 days through hyperspace, giving him time to study her file and plan his approach. Unlike other bounty hunters who relied on brute force, Marcus preferred strategy and patience. He had captured 17 fugitives without killing a single one, a record that set him apart in his profession. As the Stellar Hawk entered hyperspace, Marcus reviewed everything he knew about his target. Zara Nightwind wasn't human. That much was clear from her appearance. Her species, the Valari, were known for their telepathic abilities and their fierce independence. They had been one of the first races to resist the Consortium's expansion into their territory, leading to a brutal war that ended with their homeworld being strip-mined for rare minerals. The deeper Marcus dug into her background, the more complex the picture became. Zara hadn't started as a rebel. She had been a xenobotanist, studying plant life on frontier worlds. But when Consortium mining operations destroyed the ecosystem she was trying to protect, something inside her had changed. She began organizing resistance movements, teaching colonists how to fight back against corporate exploitation. Marcus found himself wondering if the woman in the bounty photo was truly a criminal or simply someone who had been pushed too far. But personal doubts wouldn't save his sister. He pushed such thoughts aside and focused on the task ahead. In 48 hours, he would reach the nebula and begin his hunt. The Stellar Hawk hummed through the void, carrying Marcus toward a confrontation that would change his life forever. He didn't know it yet, but he was about to discover that some things were worth more than credits, and some people were worth more than bounties. First contact the Kepler Nebula stretched before Marcus like a cosmic ocean of swirling gases and hidden dangers. Navigation through the nebula was treacherous, with electromagnetic storms that could fry a ship's systems and gravitational anomalies that could tear apart even military vessels. It was the perfect place for someone to disappear, which explained why so many fugitives chose it as their sanctuary. Marcus piloted the Stellar Hawk carefully through the nebula's outer edge, following energy signatures that might indicate recent ship activity. His sensors were limited in the nebula's chaotic environment, forcing him to rely on older tracking methods. After 6 hours of searching, he detected something unusual, a faint distress signal coming from deeper within the nebula. As he approached the signal source, Marcus discovered a damaged cargo vessel drifting helplessly in space. The ship's hull bore scorch marks from energy weapons, and its engines were completely offline. According to his scans, life support was failing rapidly. Someone was dying in there, and Marcus faced a choice that would define his character. He could ignore the distress signal and continue hunting for Zara Nightwind. Every minute he delayed reduced his chances of finding her before other bounty hunters arrived. But he could also answer the call for help, knowing it might cost him the bounty that could save his sister's life. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the oath he had taken when he first became a bounty hunter, to protect the innocent wherever possible. The docking procedure was risky in the nebula's unstable environment, but Marcus managed to attach his ship to the damaged vessel. He suited up and entered the cargo ship through an airlock, finding the interior filled with acrid smoke and the smell of burning electronics. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as he made his way through the corridors, following the life. Signs his scanner detected. He found her in the ship's medical bay, tending to the wounds of 3 injured crew members. Zara Nightwind looked exactly like her bounty photo, but seeing her in person was completely different. There was no coldness in her violet eyes, no hint of the ruthless terrorist described in consortium reports. Instead, Marcus saw compassion and determination as she worked to save lives with limited medical supplies. She looked up as he entered, showing no fear despite recognizing him immediately as a bounty hunter. Her telepathic abilities had probably sensed his intentions the moment he boarded the ship, but instead of running or fighting, she simply continued working on her patients. "You're Marcus Vale," she said, without looking away from the injured. Man she was treating. "I know why you're here, but please help me save these people first. They have families waiting for them." Marcus stood frozen in the doorway, his hand hovering near his weapon. This wasn't how bounty hunts usually went. His targets typically tried to fight, flee, or negotiate for their freedom. None had ever asked him to help save innocent lives before surrendering themselves. The moral weight of the moment crashed down on him. Here was a woman worth 50,000 credits, enough to save his sister's life, asking him to choose compassion over profit. Marcus looked at the injured crew members, saw their pain and fear, and made his decision. He holstered his weapon and moved to help Zara with the medical emergency. Together, they worked to stabilize the wounded, their hands moving in practice. Coordination as if they had been partners for years. In that moment, Marcus began to understand why so many people followed Zara Nightwind despite the price on her head. The revelation working alongside Zara to save the injured crew members revealed a side of her that consortium propaganda had never mentioned. She was a skilled medic, her hands steady and sure as she performed emergency surgery with improvised tools. More importantly, she genuinely cared about every life under her protection, treating each wounded person with the same dedication she might show to Family Dot as they worked. Zara explained what had happened to the cargo vessel. The ship had been carrying medical supplies to a colony world where a plague outbreak threatened thousands of lives. Consortium forces had intercepted them, demanding the supplies be redirected to core worlds where wealthy patients could afford premium treatment. When the crew refused, the military ships had opened fire. "They left us to die in the nebula," Zara said quietly, as she sealed the last of the wounded crew members' injuries. 40,000 people on Kepler Prime will perish without these medicines, but the consortium considers them expendable. Their only crime was being born on a frontier world instead of a core planet. Marcus felt a familiar anger building in his chest. He had grown up on a frontier world himself, watching his corporate interests stripped away resources while leaving the colonists to struggle with poverty and disease. His sister's illness was just one example of how the Outer Rim territories were abandoned when they needed help most. "Why do you do it?" he asked as they moved to check on the other patients. "The rebellion, I mean. You had a good life as a scientist. Why throw it all away?" Zara paused in her work, her violet eyes meeting his with startling intensity. "Because someone has to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. The consortium treats entire worlds like disposable resources, and they've convinced people that this is just the natural order of things, but it doesn't have to be this way." She led him to the cargo hold, where dozens of medical containers held the supplies destined for Kepler Prime. Each container was worth more than most frontier colonists saw in a lifetime, yet they represented the difference between life and death for an entire world. Marcus understood now why Zara had risked everything to protect this shipment. "I know why you're hunting me," she said, turning to face him directly. "Your sister is dying, and you need the bounty money to save her. I won't insult you by pretending credits don't matter when someone you love is suffering." Marcus was startled by her knowledge of his personal situation, but he realized her telepathic abilities probably gave her access to surface thoughts and emotions. Rather than feeling violated, he was impressed by her restraint in not probing deeper into his mind. "But I want to offer you something more valuable than 50,000 credits," Zara continued. "Join me, Marcus Vale. Help me fight for the people who have no one else to fight for them. Together, we can build something better than the Consortium's empire of exploitation." The offer hit Marcus like a physical blow. He had expected her to try bargaining for her freedom, perhaps offering information about other fugitives or promising him a larger reward later. But she was asking him to abandon everything he knew and join her cause. "What about my sister?" he asked quietly. Zara smiled for the first time since he had met her, and the expression transformed her entire face. "The medical supplies in this cargo hold include synthetic compounds that can cure the Crimson Plague. Your sister doesn't have to die, Marcus. But neither do the 40,000 people on Kepler Prime." Marcus stared at her in disbelief. She was offering him not just his sister's life, but the chance to save thousands of others as well. All she asked in return was that he help her fight against the system that had created this crisis in the first place. For the first time in years, Marcus felt something other than desperation driving his decisions. He felt hope. The choice, the weight of Zara's offer settled over Marcus like a heavy blanket as he stared at the medical containers that could save his sister's life. Everything he had worked for, every dangerous hunt he had undertaken, had been leading to this moment. But now the solution to his problems came with strings attached that would change his life forever. "You're asking me to become a fugitive," he said finally. "To give up everything I've built and throw my lot in with rebels and outcasts." Zara nodded, not trying to minimize the sacrifice she was asking him to make. "I'm asking you to become something more than a hunter who captures people for money. The Consortium has made you complicit in their system of oppression, Marcus. Every bounty you've collected has helped them maintain their stranglehold on the Outer Rim territories." Her words stung because they contained an uncomfortable truth. Marcus had always told himself that he was just doing a job, that his targets were criminals who deserved to be brought to justice. But looking at Zara, seeing the compassion in her eyes as she had worked to save injured strangers, he realized that the line between criminal and hero wasn't as clear as he had believed. Before he could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the damaged cargo vessel. Marcus rushed to the nearest viewport and cursed at what he saw. 3 Consortium military ships had emerged from the nebulous swirling gases, their weapons already charging for an attack. Someone had tracked either his ship or Zara's location. And now they were all trapped. "We need to evacuate immediately," Zara said, her voice calm despite the approaching danger. "The medical supplies are more important than any of our lives. If those medicines don't reach Kepler Prime, 40,000 people will die." Marcus found himself facing the defining moment of his life. He could try to escape with Zara and the medical supplies, risking everything to save strangers he had never met. Or he could surrender her to the Consortium forces, claim his bounty, and use the money to save his sister while letting the people of Kepler Prime face their fate alone. The choice should have been easy. His sister was family, the most important person in his life. But as he looked at Zara preparing to sacrifice herself for people she barely knew, Marcus realized that some bonds were stronger than blood. Some causes were worth dying for. The Stellar Hawk is faster than those military ships, he said, making his decision. If we transfer the medical supplies to my cargo hold, we might be able to outrun them to Kepler Prime. Zara's eyes widened. With surprise and gratitude. You're willing to help? Even knowing what it will cost you. Marcus managed a grim smile as he began moving medical containers with desperate efficiency. My sister wouldn't want to live knowing that 40,000 people died so she could survive. And maybe it's time I stopped being part of the problem. They worked together frantically as the consortium ships closed the distance, their weapons preparing to fire. The damaged cargo vessel wouldn't survive a direct assault, but if they could transfer enough medical supplies to Marcus's ship, at least some lives might be saved. As the last container was loaded aboard the Stellar Hawk, energy beams began tearing through the cargo vessel's hull. Marcus grabbed Zara's hand and pulled her toward his ship's airlock, knowing they had only seconds before the damaged vessel was completely destroyed. They made it aboard just as the cargo ship exploded behind them, the blast wave sending the Stellar Hawk tumbling through space. Marcus fought to regain control, while Zara secured the medical supplies in the cargo hold. Around them, the consortium ships were already giving chase, their superior numbers and firepower making escape seem impossible. But Marcus had spent years navigating the galaxy's most dangerous regions, and he knew tricks that military pilots had never learned. As they plunged deeper into the nebula's chaotic storms, he began to smile. The hunt was far from over, but for the first time in years, he was running towards something instead of away from it. The Stellar Hawk disappeared into the swirling gases of the Kepler Nebula, carrying two unlikely partners toward their destiny. Behind them, the consortium ships struggled to follow, their sophisticated sensors useless in the nebula's electromagnetic chaos. Marcus Vale had made his choice, and there was no turning back. New beginnings. The journey to Kepler Prime through the nebula's treacherous storms tested every skill Marcus had learned in his years as a bounty hunter. The consortium ships pursued them relentlessly, their commanders knowing that allowing Zara Nightwind to escape would be seen as a major failure. But Marcus had advantages that military pilots lacked: desperation, intimate knowledge of the nebula's hidden passages, and a partner whose telepathic abilities could sense danger before their sensors detected it. Zara proved invaluable during their escape, her mental powers allowing her to anticipate the consortium ship's movements and guide Marcus through gravitational anomalies that would have destroyed lesser pilots. Working together, they began to understand why she had inspired such fierce loyalty among her followers. She didn't just lead through charisma or ideology. She genuinely cared about every person under her. Protection. As they finally broke free of the nebula and approached Kepler Prime, Marcus felt a mixture of triumph and uncertainty. They had successfully delivered the medical supplies that would save 40,000 lives, but their actions had made them both targets of the galaxy's most powerful organization. There would be no going back to his old life. No quiet retirement after one last score. The colony world of Kepler Prime was a testament to human determination in the face of adversity. Despite being abandoned by the consortium during their plague crisis, the colonists had continued fighting for survival. When the Stellar Hawk landed at the main settlement, crowds of people gathered to welcome them as heroes. Marcus watched Zara distribute the medical supplies to local doctors, coordinating treatment efforts with the same efficiency she had shown during their escape. Seeing the gratitude in people's eyes as life-saving medicines reached their hands, he finally understood what she had been trying to tell him about fighting for something greater than personal gain. Your sister can be treated here, Zara told him as they supervised the medical distribution. Dr. Rodriguez has experience with crimson plague cases, and the synthetic compounds we brought will cure her completely. Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders that he had been carrying for months. His sister would live, the people of Kepler Prime would survive their plague, and he had played a crucial role in saving all of them. But more importantly, he had discovered a purpose that went beyond mere survival. Over the following days, as plague victims recovered and the colony began to heal, Marcus learned more about Zara's network of rebels and sympathizers. They weren't terrorists or criminals as consortium propaganda claimed, but ordinary people who had decided to fight back against systematic oppression. Doctors, engineers, teachers, and former soldiers who had chosen to risk everything for the chance to build something better. "We're not trying to destroy civilization," Zara explained as they walked through the colony's recovering medical centers. "We're trying to save it from those who would sacrifice entire worlds for profit. Humanity and its alien allies deserve better than the consortium's vision of the future." Marcus found himself nodding in agreement. He had seen too much suffering, caused by corporate greed and governmental indifference. His skills as a tracker and pilot could serve a greater purpose than capturing fugitives for bounty money. When Zara officially asked him to join her cause, Marcus didn't hesitate to accept. The bounty hunter who had come to the Kepler Nebula seeking 50,000 credits had discovered something far more valuable, a chance to make a real difference in the galaxy dot as they prepared to leave Kepler Prime and continue their fight against the consortium. Marcus sent a message to his sister explaining his decision. She would be cured and safe, but he couldn't return to Earth while so many others still needed help. He had found his true calling among the stars. The stellar hawk lifted, off from Kepler Prime, carrying two partners bound by shared purpose and mutual respect. Marcus Vale was no longer a bounty hunter working alone for personal gain. He had become something more, a protector of the innocent, a voice for the voiceless, and a symbol of humanity's refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. Behind them, the people of Kepler Prime watched their saviors disappear into the starlit sky, knowing that somewhere in the vast galaxy, heroes were still fighting for justice. The price on Zara Nightwind's head had only grown larger, but she had gained something worth infinitely more. A partner who understood that some things were worth more than credits, and some people were worth dying for. The rebellion had gained a new champion, and the consortium had gained a new enemy. The real war was just beginning.